I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, let's give you a market recap as of May 18th, 2020. I'm going to give you guys kind of a frontline update here on where the current Vancouver real estate market is and where I don't want to get in. As you guys know, I don't get into short-term predictions. I do get into long-term predictions, which is the only way to look at real estate or saving for retirement. Long-term investor, not a speculator. But I will give you guys kind of where we are at the front lines right now in the current market as of May 18th and maybe where it's going to head here moving throughout the summer. Now, I'm probably going to do, first off, the same thing that all the S&P 500 companies and all the big Canadian corporations have done here over the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've got their quarterly earnings. First quarter earnings have just come out. Most of these big U.S. corporations have not been giving forward guidance. Guidance is they generally will look out a month or 1 or 2 quarters out on where they see the business going. And for the most part, most of these big U.S. companies and Canadian companies have not been doing that. And for good reason, and I don't blame them, and I'm glad they haven't, because we are in unprecedented times. Nobody has been through what we're currently going through with the corona pandemic and the lockdown and 30 million people on unemployment in the U.S. We've got stimulus money, trillions of dollars coming into the economy from the Fed and from the Bank of Canada. It is too hard, if not impossible, to predict where this is going to go. And it's still way too early to predict where the Vancouver real estate market is going to go. What kind of effect, what kind of damage, if any, long-term is going to be a result of this COVID-19 lockdown. It's way too early to predict. What I will tell you is this. As predicted back in March and early April, back in March, I told you guys that April stats were going to be dismal. They were going to be off 40-50%. I believe the actual number was 54% sales were down for April. And the simple reason for that is that everything shut down. As you guys know, I blogged in late March that I shut down my entire business in the 3rd week of March. Took all my listings off the market and told my clients that we'll wait 5, 6, 7 weeks for a little more clarity, see where the market's going, and then we'll relist it, which I did. So I can tell you now too that May stats, when they come out in another couple more weeks, are also going to be terrible. They're probably not going to be as bad as April because we're starting the machine up here again, but they're probably going to be some of the lowest May stats we've seen in 15 or 20 years. And the reason for that again though is you have to follow it up with what inventory was. In April, sales were down 50% plus. But inventory was also greatly reduced. Nothing was listed. I didn't list anything in April, and I took 6 listings off the market, as did many other realtors. Either put them on cancel protect or terminated them. And now we're going to slowly start to see those rolling out in May, later in May, June, July, and throughout the summer. So way too early to look at the market stats and the headlines being down 50%. Prices are the most important thing. That's really the only stat that matters, I told people. You know, when you're looking at sales numbers, take a look at how it compares to inventory. If sales are down, but inventory is way down, you know, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's prices that most people are interested in. And for right now, again, way too early to see if any big impact is going to be on prices. Although I am going to do another blog here in the next week or so. Stay tuned. I'm going to do a blog called Fear Sells and Who's Buying. I have seen a couple of tremendous deals by panic sellers in the downtown market that happened in April that I'll talk to you guys about, and I'll do a blog on it. But for right now, way too early on what any of the lasting effects on real estate are going to be for Vancouver. But I will give you guys further updates as we get more clarity. Because again, I don't like to play the crystal ball predicting game. It's a mug's game. What I've been advocating on my blog here for the last 10 years is only focus on the long-term fundamentals of buying and keeping your principal residence. It's a 20, 30, 40, 50-year need, buying your principal residence. What you buy a house today, a year from now it goes down 5%, should be really of little concern to you. Have a look at it, what it's worth in 20 or 30 years. Or if you're an investor, buying an investment property, putting a tenant in it, My rule of thumb is always keeping it for at least 8 to 10 years, but hopefully longer. You are going to do incredible, and you will be guaranteed very fat capital gains on it. That's all that should matter. Remember that. But let me give you guys here some frontline stuff, because I think I'm one of the few bloggers in Vancouver that has the ability, with the volume of sales that I do, to give you kind of some frontline anecdotal stuff right from the front lines here. So the numbers just came out from the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board issues the rankings on Realtors and where we are as of every quarter. So I think I told you guys a while back that the first quarter 2020 through until the end of March was another record-setting quarter for me. Every year for the last 7 or 8 years, I'm kind of breaking new records in dollar volume, units sold, and everything else. Not to brag here or toot my own horn. I want to put this out there just so that you guys have got some context on this, so you know that I'm kind of speaking from a position of authority on this, which not everyone can do. So the first quarter rankings just came out, and I'm back up in the top 1% of all Greater Vancouver realtors. My rank, I think, right now is about 73 out of 14,000 realtors. So I sell a lot of homes. I've got, at any given time, 5, 6, 7, 8 listings, and I'm also working with buyers every single month. I only take on a couple of buyers, 2, 3 buyers at a time. I've got a bit of a waiting list a lot of times with my buying side, because I'm really a listing realtor first and foremost. That takes my priority. But I'm selling homes every single week pretty much. And I'm working with buyers. So I'm privy to the offers I'm receiving, what kind of traffic I'm getting through my listings. Right now I have detached homes on the west side of Vancouver. I've got detached homes on the east side of Vancouver. I've got downtown condos. I've got some Richmond condos. I've got a Coquitlam condo. I've got pretty much the entire gambit from $10 million homes to my lowest priced unit right now, I think, is about $600,000. So I've got a pretty good bead on where the market is at. Now, I took all my listings off the market around March 20th, and I did a blog on it. I said at that point, up until that time, I had already registered 4 sales for March. It was a strong month until the middle of the month. Once the lockdown got in place and Dr. Henry told us that we've got to stay shelter in place and we're on emergency lockdown, I decided to do the right thing and call all my clients and say, listen, traffic is falling off a cliff here. We're probably down to 10 or 20% of our normal traffic numbers. Let's take all the listings off the market. We'll revisit it in May. And that now, in hindsight, turned out to be the best move, absolutely. Because traffic again fell off a cliff. Nobody was out there. Nobody was wanting to ride in elevators and look at homes. Open houses were outlawed. You had to sign a waiver, basically, medical waiver, saying that if I die because of the COVID, we're not responsible. So it was the best move to take all those homes off the market. Now, starting last week, I've been slowly relisting these homes. Give you an update from the front lines. And I also said last month that I was going to be relisting the majority of these at the same price, which is what I did. I've relisted everything at the same price I had it at before, with the exception of one home that I had out at UBC. So far, in the last 8 days, one firm deal. I've got an accepted offer on a second deal with subjects coming off later this week. I have a fairly good interest on 2 others. One I'm looking at offers on later this week. I'm not too sure if I'm going to get any offers. If I don't, it's understandable because people don't want to get into bidding wars. I've been on a holdbacks on these, but I've had a lot of interest in it, about 14 showings in the last 5 days. I'm pretty certain that over the next week or 2, if I don't get an offer later this week, one is probably coming. So overall, I would say the market has rebounded quite nicely so far. Again, it's very early. I've still got 3 more listings that I'm going to be putting out later this month, and I've got probably 4 more that I'm going to be listing in June. Everything from detached, townhomes, and condos. So the whole gambit, most of them are going to be in Vancouver, east side and downtown Vancouver. So I'll give you guys further updates as we go along here. But so far, so good. 2 deals, interest pretty high, and quite a few showings on 2 others. I look on the MLS every day here. Listings now are starting to really start to increase quite a bit here over the last week or so, and I'd expect that to continue on until June and July. We're going to kind of have our spring market pushed a little further back. Every day, quite a number of sales, and every day I'm seeing the sales numbers for Vancouver moving up. So again, so far so good. Who knows? The market might take another dip here. It could shut down later. I don't know. But the early indications right now are that, the market seems to be kind of picking back up again slowly. Now, is it going to be like what the market was in early March? I doubt it. I think we're probably lost some buyers to the COVID. I talk about, people being in the blast zone. I do think that Vancouver itself, the city of Vancouver, downtown or east side detached, west side detached, maybe is a little more insulated, only in the fact that our prices are pretty darn high in Vancouver. You're looking at $650,000 to $700,000 for a typical one-bedroom condo. You're looking at 1.5, 1.6 for a starter home in East Vancouver. Most of those buyers, in my experience, are not in that blast zone. They're not, hospitality workers making $50,000 a year. They're generally professionals, lawyers, doctors, tech workers, maybe a little more insulated. That's not maybe the same case for out in the Fraser Valley or Surrey or some of those areas where maybe they might be a little more affected. But moving forward, let's see. I will give you guys some more updates as we go along here throughout the summer. I think, again, May numbers are still going to be pretty bad. They're going to be ugly. But I think as we move into June and July, we'll start to see those sales numbers slowly creeping up. Interest rates are low. And I think we'll start to see more buyers slowly start coming in. But again, too early to tell right now if any long-lasting effects. I'm also going to do a video later this month or early next month on the rental market, where that's at. I've got some updates on that as well. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, see you next week.